Today's discussion will cover the evolution of graphics in respect to Pixar and Disney. The hopeful takeaway from the talk is that storylines are greatly impacted by graphics capabilities. As graphics becomes a better simulation of reality, more plots can be rendered rather than performed in live-action films. The storyline and setting of the first Pixar production, Toy Story, was heavily dictated by the technological capabilities available at the time. To simplify the lighting and shadow model, the bulk of the storyline was set on a simplistic geometric object with easily calculable properties. Hence, the movie's setting was chosen to be Andy's bedroom since the floor can be modeled as a textured plane. Just like the movie's setting, the characters were selected based on the technological capabilities of the time period. The state-of-the-art illumination model was known as fog illumination. As you can see in the example of a scene lit by the model, the geometry looks like plastic and bears a large specular highlight based on the location of the light source. As I move the light source around, the specular highlight changes to reflect the light's direction. Choosing plastic toys as the characters was no coincidence, as plastic is the material best modeled with fog illumination. Since fog lighting is a poor approximation for skin due to its lack of subsurface scattering, which will be defined and demoed later, humans are almost entirely absent from the film. A byproduct of the lack of humans is that toys seem to live in a world of their own, benefiting the narrative as the story claims toys are responsible for the morality and governance of a society. Additionally, the simplicity of fog illumination permits scenes to be well lit and easy to view. The consequence of this is that it is difficult to utilize lighting to hide objects or heighten the suspense of the scene. However, since the movie is intended for children, the downsides of the model are minimized. The next featured film from Pixar, A Bug's Life, attempted to challenge the standards of the day rather than abide by them like Toy Story did. To improve upon the realism of surfaces in the film, a technique created by Edmund Catmull, one of the co-founders of Pixar, known as subsurface scattering, was employed. Subsurface scattering takes rays of light and bounces them underneath the surface of the geometry. One common algorithm known as random walk chooses random directions for the rays to move inside the surface of an object until it exits. As you can see in the following demo, subsurface scattering permits objects to be backlit and vary color based on thickness. The lighting effect is necessary to distance characters from the plastic looks of fog illumination. Since skin, for instance, reflects light directly at 6%, with the remaining 94% being scattered within human tissue, the effect is needed to bring realism to characters and fauna. Ergo, A Bug's Life becomes a lively and engaging story because the insects in the environment look plausible. Plants are not simply painted green, but their coloration responds to the sun's location and the canopy of leaves above them. A vivid world of intrigue is thusly spawned as a byproduct of the lighting model starting to mimic reality. Now we will jump from the early days of Pixar to modern Disney animation. To analyze advances in lighting and physics, we will take a closer look at Big Hero 6 and Frozen. Big Hero 6 was the first movie to be entirely rendered in ray tracing. Ray tracing mimics how light traverses a scene in real life, producing photorealistic images. To accomplish this feat, a ray is fed through each pixel of the image. The ray bounces around the scene until the unabsorbed energy of the light is numerically insignificant. The ray's color is then returned as the pixel value for wherever the ray originated from. Well, you may be thinking, why are we spawning light rays from the camera and not the light source? Since the light source may spawn a multitude of rays of light, we only care about those that hit the camera. Thus, we are actually tracing the reverse path the ray travels through the scene. If the ray is not a part of the light source, it simply will never hit it. Let's try to render a scene with ray tracing to see how it works. As each pixel is filled in during the render, information from the ray hitting the object in the scene is completed. As you can see, effects such as reflection, refraction, and translucency can all be accomplished via ray tracing. Because ray tracing is photorealistic, movies are no longer bound by what computers can't produce visually. Instead, as long as there are a sufficient amount of skilled artists, most scenes will look as if a camera captured them. Although ray tracing has solved lighting and illumination for movies, physics engines are not nearly as advanced. The reason Frozen was able to base its entire storyline around snow is because of a recent Disney-funded research paper published in SIGGRAPH. The storyline demands snow that can stick to walls and accumulate while rolling because the recent paper published on snow simulation was specifically designed for those scenarios. While we lack the time to take a deep dive into the material point method Disney used, it's important to note that the primary issue with snow simulation is that bad simulations cause snow to move akin to salt. By stressing the clumping and sticking properties of snow, Disney is able to mentally trick the viewer into differentiating the simulation from that of a substance with no attractive properties. The overall effect is a movie that seems to take place in a winter wonderland, when in reality it is a large salt mine with special effects and contrived scenarios. I hope that my brief history of graphics techniques used by Pixar and Disney has been beneficial. Ultimately, the inability of graphics to imitate reality is becoming non-existent, meaning that movies will soon no longer be bound by the quirks of a render engine like in the early days of Pixar. Thank you.